Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, GCP, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
Ryan,
and Matthew.
Episode 339, recorded for January 20th, 2026. Just in time secrets because your AI agent can't keep its mouth shut. Good evening, Matt. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. We were doing so well. We had over three hosts for multiple weeks, and then we hit today.
Wait, did we have all four hosts for the first 2 weeks?
Well, we had
remember.
Jonathan had to drop out when we did the back-to-back for the second episode.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Technically, he was there for the first episode we recorded that day, and it wasn't there for the second. And then he was back for last week. So,
Okay, so I'm 3 for 3. I'm still a little bit upset about the unreliable data that we used. I'm going to contest it at one point.
I mean, since Heather calls you out in the show notes, I think you should blame it on Heather, because I had to use Heather's introduction in the paragraph, and so if she didn't mention who the hosts were in that episode, you didn't get counted. And so for all I know, she had a bias against the episodes where it was just you and me, and so she just didn't put Justin and Matt join us this week in the thing, and so I wasn't able to scrape for that when I did my search. So that's why this year we have, in the show notes, we have specifically who was here. So we're tracking this for better metrics. So if you were right, I think it'll prove it out by the end of the year.
All right, so I'm going to go in. I'll have Claude Workspace, Cowork or whatever, go through each episode. And try to see if it'll listen to it the first 5 minutes and see if I say hello. If I do, then I'll reset it. So that'll be my side project over the next couple of weeks whenever I have time in my life.
I mean, technically, you could probably if you wanted to go through and transcript all of last year's episodes, you could then probably just use transcripts, because the transcript service we have recognizes speakers, but just there's options, things you can do.
I don't think I have enough time in my life for that, but it does sound like a
probably
project.
Not.
There's not enough value in it. It's more like maybe just to make fun of Ryan a little bit, but I was a little bit offended that I did not show up. Though I did have a kid, so maybe last year's a little bit of a blur and half the weeks are a blur. So
I mean, you were out for a couple weeks when you had the baby. So I mean, it all could play out. I mean, I agree with you. I feel you were here significantly more than Ryan was, and definitely more than Jonathan was. So I feel you. I was surprised at the metrics too. I was surprised. Now it's either because Ryan's just not very memorable to me when he's on the show. I don't know. And I can say that because he's my friend. So and he won't listen to this episode anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah, so we're fine.
He'll never know. Anyways. All right. Well, let's get into some news. A couple acquisitions to start out this week. Cloudflare is acquiring the Astro Technology company, bringing the popular open source web framework in-house while maintaining its MIT license and multi-cloud deployment capabilities. Major platforms like Webflow Cloud, Wix, Vibe, and Stainless already use Astro and Cloudflare infrastructure to power customer websites. Azure 6 introduced a redesigned development server built on the Vite Environments API that runs code locally using the same runtime as production deployments. Using the Cloudflare Vite plugin, developers can test against worker runtime with access to durable objects, D1, KV, and other Cloudflare services during your local development. The framework focuses on content-driven websites through its island architecture, which renders most pages as static HTML, while also selectively providing client-side interactivity using any AI UI framework you like. The approach addresses the complexity that made building performant websites difficult before 2021, providing a simpler foundation for both human developers and AI coding agents. I mean, this is kind of interesting as well, because there was some recent news about Tailwind CSS laying off 80% of their staff. They blamed AI for that, because basically people don't need to come to their website to get the enterprise versions or to get better support or documentation, because AI is so good at what it does with Tailwind's code. So I imagine Astro maybe was under pressure as well, perhaps. And so this was a good exit for them to Cloudflare, which is a big supporter and fan of theirs in general.
Yeah, I would assume that they heavily use it internally. So,
yes.
Hopefully it's something that they can leverage, continue to grow, and, they don't have to redevelop their platform, because I feel like they've had a lot of oopsie daisies in the last year or so with issues. So they don't need a front end issue occurring anywhere.
Yeah, they definitely taken a bit of a reputational hit in the last quarter with a bunch of their outages and issues that they were having. Yeah, and that's why I think their CTO had a blog post right around Christmas time where he was, basically saying, we're going to get back to what we're known for, which is stability and reliability. So good to see it. Cloudflare is also acquiring Human Native, a UK-based AI data marketplace that transforms multimedia content into structured, searchable data for AI training. This acquisition accelerates Cloudflare's AI Index initiative, which uses a pub/sub model to let websites push structured content updates to AI developers in real time instead of relying on traditional web crawling. Human Data's platform focuses on licensed, high-quality training data rather than scraped content, the one UK video AI company reportedly discarding their existing training data after achieving better results with Human Data's curated dataset. Acquisition builds on Cloudflare's existing AI crawl control and pay-per-crawl products, giving content owners more control over how AI systems access their content. So we block you from getting to people's AI content, and now we offer a way for you to buy better content. That's a well-played move by Cloudflare. It's a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart. They can, they block everything. And if you want it, hey, give me some money on this side. So, they get it on both sides. They get it from the vendor saying, no, you can't access it. On the flip side, they have a whole new customer base. It also, will help the customers, go back to what you just said, more stable platform, because they have it only get crawled once, by Cloudflare, block everything else, which, you were saying in the pre-show, you were mad that a website you were trying to get to blocked all the AI bots from accessing it. And this hopefully will help their customers become more stable, and they have it. So, on the flip side, from a stability, it's a smart play on both sides for them. I don't know what the acquisition cost was and what the revenue stream is going to be, but it seems like a pretty good play to handle, keeping their customers up and stable.
Agreed. Well, let's move on to AI is how machine learning makes money. This week, Anthropic is launching a lab as a dedicated team focused on incubating experimental AI products at the frontier of cloud's capabilities, led by the Instagram co-founder Mike Krieger and Ben Mann. This organization shifts separate rapid experimentation from product scaling, with Emil Vora taking over as head of products focused on enterprise-grade cloud experiences. The lab's approach has already produced several products that have moved from research to production, including Claude Code, which reached $1 billion in revenue within 6 months of launch, and the MCP protocol, which now has over 100 million monthly downloads and has become an industry standard for connecting AI systems to tools and data. Recent lab outputs include Skills, Claude and Chrome, and Cowork, which launched as a research preview to bring Claude's agentic capabilities to desktop environments. And this demonstrates the team's focus on exploring new interaction models and deployment patterns for large language models beyond traditional chat interfaces. The organizational structure created 2 parallel tracks: labs for frontier experimentation with unpolished versions and early user testing, and the core product organization partnering with CTO Rahul Patil to scale proven experiences for millions of daily users and enterprise customers. Separation aims to balance innovation velocity with reliability requirements. Apparently, they're actively hiring for those lab positions, especially targeting builders with experience creating consumer products and working with emerging technologies. The team structure reflects the company's view that rapid AI advancement requires different organizational approaches than traditional product development life cycles.
I mean, the fact that you can get a lab to a GA customer product, think, Claude Code and MCP, where it's now used, is a really hard thing, because a lot of these times, as a product company, getting something from a lab POC, into a stable platform takes a lot of work. And they seem to have done a pretty good job at that with all these different technologies. Now, granted, we'll see how long a lot of them live. Like the Claude Chrome plugin, I think, is going to die, not directly, but is used in other aspects of the platform, like the Cowork tool they just released. But it has a nice, they're doing a really good job. If they continue to kind of build that lab to product feature and have failures that are called out here, but they can have a lot of those failures that give them the technology in order to build new features and new, I want to say skill sets, but that's not the right thing, new tools and new product lines. It's just it's a great revenue stream. Let developers, let builders go play with things, and they can do amazing things at times.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chrome plugin probably is going to stick around because it does have a value to the Claude Code side as well, especially for like testing web applications and doing web dev tools and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's definitely a platform component to Claude, like the AI models of the platform. So is potentially the Chrome web browser MCP is part of the platform, and then how do you build on top of those as products through Cowork and through the Claude chat interface, etc. So it is interesting how fast they can do it. And I think, but this is like most startups. Most startups, are small, nimble teams, and then you get into large enterprises that have, dev teams of hundreds of people and all these features. And, that's why a lot of times startups are more nimble and more capable of, leapfrogging bigger organizations with more bureaucracy. The question will be, is this innovation pace continue over time? or does it slow down as maturity comes into the model, into how they need to do business and make revenue and not be burning so much free capital? Well, not free capital, but free debt.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have the advantage of having a lot less tech debt than, a 5 or 10-year-old company. I guess they are 5, 10, 15-year-old company.
Well, and in many ways, with the speculation in the AI market, they're basically one of the only companies that can get basically access to zero interest dollars. Other than they have to show a return on that investment. As really all the AI companies. So, now we don't have zero interest rate loans out there in the market feeding startups and startup ideas. It's definitely a different world. So we'll see. We talked briefly about Mira Murati in the prediction episode this year. And what's going to happen with Thinking Machine Labs, which is valued at $12 billion after a $2 billion seed round last July. It was founded by Mira and many of the founders of OpenAI. But apparently they just lost 2 of the 3 co-founders back to OpenAI within a year of the founding of the company. Barrett Zoff, who served as CTO along with co-founder Luke Metz and researcher Sam Schoenhels, returned to OpenAI with what reports suggest was not an amicable departure. Apparently there was some dating in the workplace, never appropriate apparently, and there was some fallout that occurred around that per the rumor mill. Startup has now lost 4 key personnel in under a year, including co-founder Andrew Tulloch, who left for Meta in October. Sumit Chintala, who was promoted to replace Zoff as CTO, brings over a decade of AI field experience to that role. Rapid co-founder departures raise questions about Thinking Machine's internal dynamics and strategic direction, particularly given the company's secure backing from major investors, including Andreessen Horowitz, Excel, NVIDIA, and AMD. Startup has not publicly disclosed what products or services it is developing, despite the substantial funding. Which that's my prediction for the year, is that we'll find out what Thinking Machines is actually working on sometime this year. But the AI market is still very competitive. There's still lots of movement, and so if you don't like what's going on, you just quit and you can get a job back at where you came from, or another startup that's trying to pay through the nose for AI talent.
I think you just put this in there just to show that you were right, and you're 3 weeks into the year. Just saying.
I mean, they didn't announce what they're doing. It's this turmoil in the space, right? So.
No, I know. Yeah, it's interesting that they're going back to OpenAI. So it'll be curious, with NDAs and other things in place, like how all that's going to work. If they are going to go straight back, if it's going to just take time. I'm always curious about that type of stuff with that knowledge gap. So.
I mean, it seemed like a ton of founders left OpenAI. It does feel like it kind of impacted their ability to innovate for a little bit there, which I thought maybe was some of the reason why ChatGPT 3.5 to 4 was such kind of a minor enhancement versus others. But I also think that could be a reflection of the models and their ability to get better from where they're at today. So it's really a question of, is that a momentum problem or is it a capability problem?
Knowledge.
But we'll see if OpenAI starts moving much faster and starts launching cool products again within 6 months. You can maybe point back to the talent thing. So we'll keep an eye on the space. We'll see what happens.
I was going to say 6 to 9 months. Yeah, give them a little bit of time to get in, make their mark, and make those changes again.
I mean, I assume that they're more familiar with how OpenAI works already because they came from there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And so, does it take quite as long? Maybe.
By the end of the year. We'll see.
We'll see. Yep. OpenAI is adding 750 megawatts of dedicated low latency inference capacity through a partnership with Cerebras? I don't know how to say that. Cerebras? Deployment rolling out in phases through 2028. Cerebras uses a unique architecture with a single giant chip that combines compute, memory, and bandwidth to eliminate traditional bottlenecks in AI inference. Partnership focuses specifically on accelerating real-time AI responses for workloads like complex queries, code generation, image creation, and AI agents. Cerebras systems are purpose-built for fast token generation during the output phase of inference, which is a critical interactive AI application where users expect immediate responses. This addresses the request think respond loop that determines user experience quality. I mean, in general, anybody who can get you AI capacity is apparently a must-do. And so the fact that they have something that can help them move faster somewhere with ability to get more wafers and more GPU capacity is something that every AI startup is looking for, because NVIDIA can't deliver it all right now.
So they've built their own chip. Yes.
Yep.
That's
like a custom silicone, sort of like a Trainium chip or whatever the Google one is called.
Got it. Yeah, I was reading it. I was a little bit confused because I was like, they're not just power, but it looks like even there's a bunch of articles about how they're using a much larger chip too than traditional chips. So how they're leveraging and kind of putting all that into one place. I mean, it makes sense that there's less things for it to do when, you know, it can all stay a little bit more local, but, you know, I think like one of the rejected show titles was, you know, it's amazing how well you're doing when you're buying, you know, somewhat on speculation too. You're spending, what was it, 10 billion or something on pure speculation.
Yeah, that's crazy. It was predicted a long time ago by many cynics of the ChatGPT industry is that this business model was not sustainable, and so that eventually ads would come to OpenAI models or LLMs in general or chat type interfaces, and apparently it's happening. ChatGPT Go is launching globally at $8 per month, creating a 3-tier subscription model with Go, Plus, and Pro. The Go tier provides 10x more messages, file uploads, and image creation than the free tier with access to GPT 5.2 instance, plus longer memory and context windows for improved conversation continuity. Pricing strategy positions Go as an entry-level paid option for users who need more capacity than the free tier, but don't require the advanced reasoning capabilities of GPT 5.2 thinking or GPT 5.2 Pro. As part of this announcement, they also said that they are looking into ways to start monetizing with ads, although they are committing that the Plus, Pro, Business, Enterprise tiers will remain ad-free, but they will be introducing it in both the free tier and the ChatGPT Go tier in the US at some point. The ad-supported model aims to sustain free and low-cost access points while generating revenue from users who don't need premium features. The tiered approach reflects a shift towards market segmentation similar to traditional SaaS models with clear differentiation between casual users, professionals, and power users.
Ads are coming to AI. We all knew it was coming. They have to find additional ways to monetize it. What I am curious about, though, is how long they'll hold their word on the Pro, Plus, and whatever the other tier is. You know, will actually stay ad free, or if it'll be like Amazon, where they just slowly keep creeping in ads in different places. You know, it's the movies are ad free. Okay, then there's different tiers. Your Kindle has ads on it now. You know, so kind of curious how long they'll stick with their word of it, or they'll just always kind of add things, or it'll be like, oh, we have a Plus, you know, 2.0, and Plus is $20, and Plus 2.0 is $18, but $18 gives you ads. You know, I always kind of wonder.
I'm really curious to see what ads look like in ChatGPT. I mean, like, is it going to be, you know, I'm asking it for medical advice or suicide prevention or something. It's going to give me an ad for something completely inappropriate that time. I mean, like, there's so many questions that are going to come into this type of setup that just based on some of the things I've seen go wrong already, I'm sort of nervous for this a little bit. Like, I'm worried about the horror stories that are going to come out because there's already horror stories of people who are paying for the real versions. And now all of a sudden you're getting an ad for, you know, if you're an alcoholic or recovering alcoholic, and all of a sudden you get an ad for whiskey. Is that going to, you know, potentially cause you issues? Or how's that ad interpreted? Is it can become part of the chat response, or is it very clearly an ad? I mean, so many questions about how this is actually going to get put into play.
I feel like it's going to be like the Google where it just is sponsored there, but I also feel like at this point in Google, the first 6 responses are all sponsored links.
Yeah, but at least it's very clear and you know, Google what's an ad and what's not. So I mean, I did ask their website, you know, their chat doing, so they say they'll be marked as sponsored, so you know it's a commercial, and it'll be contextual and relevant to your conversation. That's where I get nervous. And it'll be simple visual units, so it's not supposed to influence your answer. So we'll see, but time will tell what it actually ends up doing. All right, moving on to cloud tools. 1Password is integrating with Cursor, the AI-powered IDE, to provide just-in-time secrets management through Cursor hooks that validate and inject credentials at runtime without ever storing them on disk. This eliminates the common security risk of developers hard-coding API keys or committing secrets to source control while working with AI coding assistants. Integration works by running a hook script before Cursor's AI agent executes shell commands, verifying that the required environment files from 1Password environments are properly configured, and prompting users to authorize access only when needed. Secrets remain in memory for the runtime session only and never touch disk or get history, maintaining zero trust principles while keeping development velocity high. This addresses a critical gap in AI-assisted development where AI agents could potentially access unrestricted credentials, or developers might paste tokens directly into config files for convenience. The solution lets product owners configure secrets management centrally, while individual developers maintain control over authorization through 1Password's existing access policies and vault permissions. Future plans include granular task-specific access rules for AI agents, broader support for model context protocol and external API interactions, automated secret rotation for AI workflows, and enhanced audit visibility for security teams. The goal is making secure access a native part of AI-powered development rather than an afterthought bolted on later. This, of course, matters because AI coding tools like Cursor are rapidly becoming standard in developer workflows, but most teams lack proper secrets management for those new AI-driven interactions. And one thing they don't mention, which I think is also a big threat, is you're sending your context to their servers, and if you're putting your password into the context, that password is now going to the inference systems, and that potentially could get exposed, I think. So it'd be nice if this also had the ability to prevent a secret from getting transmitted to the third-party LLM, but I think that's going to require some hooks into things like Cloud Code and other IDE type solutions, including Cursor, to prevent that from happening. But preventing it from getting Git is a good start as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say Git really does feel like a good start because the amount of times I've seen secrets and passwords in code is an obscene number, and I've even made the mistake over time of committing and even doing like git force push or rebit, nothing can truly get it out. So, once it's in there, you immediately have to rotate and everything else. So having the integration in is great. I love it to come to Cloud Code. I use the AWS integration. Goes back to our conversation, Justin, a long time ago about do you actually store your root credentials, or do you actually use your IAM on your personal account? And I actually recently set up 1Password into AWS, and by recent, I probably mean a couple months ago. And it works really well to do the full integration and so I can just do things like Terraform and other CLI commands and it fully integrates. So this will be a nice, once they get it into that workflow too, saves a lot of hassle.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I am a big fan of that. I use 1Password CLI for similar use cases, but now I've actually started moving to single sign-on because enabling the Amazon single sign-on is so easy, and then you can now set up your CLI tools to use a single sign-on as well. So the tokens last for 8 hours. First thing I do in the morning, I hit the thing and I say, hey, I need to re-auth my credential, and I log in through my Google credentials, which I've set up as my IDP. And that's got that's got passkeys and everything else that I require for my Google account. And I feel pretty good about myself. I mean, I'm sure some others like, oh, that's Google, they're getting all your data. But I'm very happy with that as temporary credentials inside of my pipeline. They're actually starting to move more and more away from having 1Password even do it, just because single sign-on is just even more better.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I adjust the 8 hours to 12. I'm sure some security person's yelling at me, but 8 hours somehow always bites me. I'm like jumping in to finish something at the end of the day, and it's like 8 hours and 10 minutes and it breaks, and I'm like, get annoyed. And I normally just rage quit at that point and walk away. So I always adjust mine to 12 hours.
Nice.
Just a pet peeve of mine in life.
Harness is launching the Human Aware Change Agent, an AI system that listens to incident response conversations on Slack, Teams, and Zoom to extract operational clues like the checkout button froze after they updated their cart, and automatically correlates them with actual production changes, including deployments, feature flags, and config updates. This solves a problem where critical incident context lives in human conversations but never makes it to automated investigation tools. Agent is part of Harness AI SRE, which includes an AI scribe that filters incident-related conversation from noise and feeds it to the change investigation engine. Instead of just transcribing chat or generic RCA summaries, it produces evidence-backed hypotheses like deployment to checkout service 12 minutes before incident introduced new retry config, followed by a latency spike and downstream timeouts. System integrates with existing observability and incident management tools, including Datadog, PagerDuty, Jira, ServiceNow, Slack, and Teams through native integrations and webhooks. It also includes automation runbooks for standardized response and on-call management to route incidents to the right owners. The core innovation is treating human insight as operational data rather than assuming incidents can be solved purely through logs, metrics, and traces. This addresses the reality that on-call engineers often identify patterns through conversations before they show up in dashboards, especially as an AI-assisted development increases code velocity and reduces clear ownership of changes. The tool aims to shorten the incident response cycle from what are we seeing to what changed to what should we do by doing human observation with machine-driven change intelligence. And this is something that sort of a threat to me, because this is what I normally typically do in incident things is I look at all the context clues and provide this type of insight of like, it's interesting because we just approved a change that went out 20 minutes ago and now we're having this incident that's related to a similar system to it. Are they potentially related? That's a question I ask in many outages. So I guess I'm on providing that context now to the tool, but if the tool can start providing that context in some way, that would also be very helpful as well. But, human awareness of how the system works as a whole, because typically AI systems don't have the context to handle the whole system view, is also very valuable to the AI as well. So I guess we're just become serving the AI someday versus the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, like what you said, the first thing I do whenever there's an outage is, okay, stop, no one touch anything. Let's have a 5-minute conversation of what changed. And that normally gives you some idea. So, like you said, it'd be great eventually if it can, ingest Azure activity logs and Cloudtrail and whatever the Google equivalent is of it, and kind of see those, see what's changed in the last, 24 hours too.
Let's move on to Amazon, who's got 2 new instances for us this week for you to burn all your monies. First is the X8i instance with custom Intel Xeon 6 processors, offering up to 6 terabytes of memory and 3.9 gigahertz sustained all-core turbo frequency, delivering 1.5x more memory capacity and 3.4x more memory bandwidth than previous X2i generation. These SAP certified instances target memory-intensive workloads like in-memory databases, data analytics, and EDA applications. I mean, come on, you had a chance to mention SAP. Up there is the next one. Performance improvements are substantial across multiple workloads, 50% higher for SAP HANA, 40% faster for Postgres, and 88% faster for Memcached, and 46% faster for AI inference compared to the X2 instances. Real customer deployments show Orion reduce SQL Server licensing costs by 50% while maintaining performance thresholds by using fewer active cores. This has come in 14 sizes, including 3 new larger options, the 48X large, 64X large, and 96X large, and 2 bare metal variants with network bandwidth up to 100 gigabits per second, supporting elastic hybrid adapter, and 80 gigs of EBS throughput. Whew, that's a beefy box. And then the other one is the EC2 G7E instance powered by the NVIDIA RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell Server Edition GPU, delivering 2.3x better inference performance compared to the G6E instances and doubling GPU memory to 96 gig per GPU. These instances can handle models up to 70 billion parameters with FP8 precision on a single GPU, with configurations up to 8 GPUs and 768 gigabyte total GPU memory per node. I mean, that's a lot of power and cooling, and that's where all my RAM went to, which is why my RAM is expensive now, because it's a lot of RAM for that GPU.
It's needed for, something. Nothing that I get to do in life.
Yeah, if it makes my cloud code session faster somehow, like I'm appreciative in like a very six steps away from me level.
Yeah, I mean, instance sizes nowadays are so large. I look at even the small ones and I'm like, that's more than I can need in some places. So
yeah, I mean, I look at these instances all the time and I'm like, well, a web server doesn't need that much memory. So unless you really have a true good API, or LLM use case, like you just don't need this much memory. Or if you're running SAP for HANA or you're running some big massive databases, I get why you need it. Which helps that they're so expensive because it makes you think twice about using them as well.
It makes your CFO and your cloud platform team and your everyone else think about it. The database team still just goes, I want that.
Exactly. Well, things aren't so great in politics in the world stage these days. And, potentially America wants Greenland. We apparently we're involved in Venezuela in a way that's not great either. I try not to pay attention to the news too much, but I am very aware of what's happening. And so, there's a lot of concern in Europe about all of these American hyperscalers who own all the infrastructure. And so, we've talked about Google and Microsoft doing some things to try to risk that. And so Amazon is now joining the fray, which is sort of weird for them, kind of being a third one to do this. But they are releasing the AWS European Sovereign Cloud, now generally available, with its first region in Brandenburg, Germany, operating as a physically and logically separate infrastructure partition entirely within the European Union. Infrastructure will be operated exclusively by EU residents located in the EU with dedicated IAM and billing systems and technical controls that prevent access from outside the European Union. Service launches with comprehensive AWS capabilities including SageMaker, Bedrock, EC2, Lambda, EKS, Aurora, DynamoDB, S3, and other core services, backed by €7.8 billion investment expected to contribute €17.2 billion to the European economy through 2040. Expansion plans include sovereign local zones in Belgium, Netherlands, and Portugal, plus options for dedicated local zones, AI factories, and outpost deployments. The operational model features EU-based management through German legal entities, with Steven Israel appointed as managing director and advisory board of EU citizens providing sovereignty oversight. The infrastructure maintains AWS security standards, including Nitro System Isolation, ISO 27001, SOC 1, 2, and 3 reports, and BSAI C5 attestation, the Sovereign Reference Art Framework available in AWS Artifact. Data residency guarantees ensure all customer content and metadata includes roles, permissions, and configurations remain within the EU using dedicated European trust service providers for certificate authority operations and European TLDs for Route 53 name servers. Pricing is in euros with billing available in 8 supported currencies through Amazon Web Services, EMEA, SARL. Major AWS partners, including Adobe, Cisco, SAP, Snowflake, and Wiz, are making their right solutions available in the sovereign cloud, enabling public sector and highly regulated industry customers to meet strict compliance requirements while accessing modern cloud capabilities without being stuck in legacy on-premise environments.
I mean, they're putting a lot of money into this, and all these cloud providers are, given the way the world is, and we'll leave it at that. But it's quite amazing, how isolated this is. You would have assumed originally, like, billing to me wouldn't be a big deal, but they've completely isolated that out. And right there, which might be better. They might be better off doing that because their billing system probably could use some segregation. Um, so it's amazing how much effort they're kind of doing in this, and it shows that they're truly actually isolating this into their own world.
Yeah, I mean, Google's got the same thing with a partnership with Thales in France. I mean, I think Azure is doing something similar as well. So I mean, like everyone's.
I think they're writing their own.
Yeah, I think the industry said they're running their own. But like, the question is, kind of a European entity owned by a U.S. corporation, does that actually fulfill the concerns that the European Union has? Or like the Google thing is to the further extreme, because there's a version of the Thales partnership where Thales is actually the company you're contracting with, and they're actually running it. So basically, they're licensing all the software from Google, and then they're running it on their behalf. And so in the event that Google, if EU and US go to war with each other, heaven forbid, basically Thales would take over control of that data center and that thing, and that would no longer have access by anybody from the US. So it's weird times. I think back to the days when we talked about safe harbor as being sufficient. It's just so crazy. For a simpler time would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, the local zones, they're building it out from scratch. To me, this is going to be probably no different than, GovCloud that was built in secret and top secret regions. I think you're going to see more of these things pop up.
Yep. Anyways, AWS is currently becoming the first customer of Rio Tinto's Newton bioleaching technology, which uses microorganisms to extract copper from ore at the Johnson Camp mine in Arizona. Process produces 99.9% pure copper cathode directly at the mine without traditional smelters or refineries, achieving a carbon footprint of 2.82 kilograms per CO2, something, I don't know what that math is, compared to the global range.
I think it's the emissions of CO2 per kilograms.
I think that's what it is too. The 2-year agreement supplies low-carbon copper for AWS data center components, including electric cables, bus bars, transformers, circuit boards, and processor heat sinks. The Johnson Camp is now the lowest carbon primary copper producer in the U.S., targeting approximately 30,000 tons of refined copper over 4 years with 71 liters of water per kilogram versus the industry average of 130 liters. Okay, I understand liters. AWS provides cloud-based data and analytics support to optimize Newton's bioleaching operations, including heap leach performance simulation and advanced analytics for acid and water usage. The modular system enables rapid scaling and customization for different ore bodies while recovering value from previously classified waste materials. This collaboration addresses supply chain resilience by producing critical materials domestically for U.S. data centers while supporting Amazon's climate pledge goal of net zero carbon by 2040. I mean, you're pretty confident this technology is going to work to extract this copper. The fact that you're buying it before it's even started being, coming out of the ground. And it also just tells me how much you desperately need it for all the AI investments you're about to be making. So I guess this is a smooth move. I don't know much about this part of the world and business, but it sounds impressive.
I feel like it's more of they're probably getting it for a cheaper price now. And it shows that they're going towards the green climate pledge.
Yeah, I mean, so then do you think will they be able to send it to their suppliers? Because Amazon doesn't manufacture their own cables or their own bus bars, so I assume Amazon sources it from this mine and then sends it to the manufacturer. I'm sort of curious how that all works, but okay.
I wonder if they, in their contract, say we have the right to, tell you where to buy from, or, at comparable prices to what you were already paying for your supplies or something like that. Or we can provide it to you, or maybe that's part of their, they're going to start to go more vertical. Once this starts to go, they're going to start to build their own cables. And they'll buy a cabling company next.
Yep. Kiro CLI has bumped up to version 1.24, introducing skills, a new resource type for progressive context loading that only loads metadata at startup and fetches full documentation content on demand when the AI agent needs it most. This addresses memory constraints when working with large documentation sets by requiring YAML front matter with descriptive metadata to help agents determine when to load complete content. The release adds built-in code intelligence for 18 programming languages, including Python, JavaScript, Go, Rust, and others without requiring LSP setup. Developers get immediate access to symbol search, definition navigation, and structural code searches, plus a new code slash code overview command for quick workspace analysis. New AST-based pattern search and pattern rewrite tools enable precise code refactoring with matching syntax tree patterns instead of text or regex. This eliminates false matches in string literals and comments, providing more reliable code transformations for AI agents. Conversation compaction addresses context window limitations with a slash compact command that summarizes conversational history while preserving the key information. Feature triggers automatically when context limits are reached and creates a new session while allowing users to resume the original conversation. We configure retention settings for message pairs and context window percentages. Updates include granular URL permissions for web fetch tool using regex patterns to control which domains AI agents can access, plus remote authentication support for Google and GitHub when running Kiro CLI on remote machines via SSH, SSM, or your container. So that's a pretty handy setup there.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like Kiro. You definitely used it when it was in beta, and then even when it was out a little bit. It's, they're kind of catching up with Claude and kind of getting all the same parity still. But I do like Kiro. I think it's a good tool. I like the way it kind of walk you through setting stuff up, kind of the whole workflow of it, and getting these same, auto compaction and all these other things kind of built in is a pretty nice addition that they're getting.
Yeah. I think I was using it quite a bit before they started charging for it, and then I kind of lost interest because I have so many other tools that I use these days.
Well, with free, was it 4.0 at the time? It was kind of worth it.
Yeah. It was super cheap and free, and it was awesome. But yeah, the side of it is that they're all built top of Visual Studio Code, so there's nothing really special about majority of the code editing piece. It's really about the AI interface, and so I wish it was just a plugin for Visual Studio Code, to be honest. And I have the same feeling about Anti-Gravity, which is Google's version of this. They're all just Visual Studio Code. You're not reinventing the wheel. It's like everybody's using Chrome at the back end of a web browser these days.
Yeah, I mean, the world is just VS Code skins.
Yeah, VS Code and Chrome. Like, that's all the world is these days.
One Microsoft, one Google. Don't think too hard about that.
Yep. Moving on to Google Cloud this week, BigQuery now supports SQL native inference for open models from Hugging Face and Vertex AI Model Garden through a two-step process: create model with model ID string, then run inference using AI generate text or AI generate embedding functions. This eliminates the need for separate infrastructure management or API integrations outside of BigQuery. Service includes automated resource management with configurable idle timeout settings that automatically undeploy endpoints when not in use, preventing runaway costs from idle GPU instances. User can customize machine types, replica counts, and leverage compute engine reservations for consistent GPU availability on demanding workloads. This extends BigQuery's existing and managed inference capabilities beyond Google's Gemini model and partners models like Anthropic and Mistral to any compatible open model. The entire lifecycle from deployment to cleanup happens through SQL statements, making LM inference accessible to data analysis with requiring ML engineering expertise. And I hope you can do some really nasty joins and then send them to the AI model. Why is my database deadlocking? I'm using AI. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, this all seems crazy to me that like this is where we're at, where AI is writing, creating models, kind of running all these
doing
things
embeddings right in the database. There's no middle layer. Don't need an API. It's very impressive.
Yeah,
Like it sort of sounds like SQL store procedures though, and so I'm like, should you be doing it there?
Yeah, like none of this sounds good, but it's impressive, and I don't ever want to see anyone I know using it. But I'm sure I will come across somebody and hate myself a little bit at that point.
I mean, again, it depends on if it's trying to do something at scale with this technology, or something a little hack project I'm working on for something, or I need to do some special analytics project.
It will be at scale. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I know that's the problem, but I'm hoping people are thoughtful.
One of our day jobs will come across something where they're like, "We don't know how this works." Yeah, it was written by AI back in 2025, and
that's exactly how it'll get done. AI will build it. Yeah.
It's been there for 5 years and nobody knows how it works. It's like 16 joins and whatever. You're like, I hate my life right now.
And then our last announcement from Google this week is Google's releasing Translate Gemma, a new family of open translation models based on Gemma 3, available in 4B, 12B, and 27B parameter sizes, supporting 55 languages. The model uses a two-stage training process combining supervised fine-tuning on parallel data from human translations and Gemini-generated synthetic translations, followed by reinforcement learning using metric X-QE and auto MQM reward models. The 12B Translate Gemma model outperforms the baseline Gemma 3 27B model on WMT24++ benchmarks, using less than half the parameters, delivering higher throughput and lower latency. The 4B model matches the performance of the 12B baseline, making it suitable for mobile inference and edge deployment. Translate Gemma retains Gemma 3's multimodal capabilities, showing improved performance on the Vistra image translation benchmark without specific multimodal fine-tuning. I mean, that's a lot of numbers. I don't know anything about any of that, but I am excited about the idea of models that specialize in supporting language translations. And so this is things that power future products inside of your Android phone someday, where, Apple has a feature where it can slowly translate things for your AirPods from Spanish to English and live how people are talking. And it's a little delayed and it works relatively well. I'm sure this is going to be able to bring similar type capabilities to you and your Android phone, be able to use it for software translations for websites. And so a world where we're starting to be able to support more and more languages through easy AI models that are cheap is going to be huge for so many languages out there that are harder to be adopted, or for people who are trying to enter the workforce who maybe don't have the right language knowledge to be able to be effective without something like this. So someday I hope for the Star Trek Universal Translator, but until then, I'm happy with some models helping us get close.
I was going with the Babelfish in my ear from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but yeah.
Yep, that's a good one too.
No, I think that this is really amazing. It isn't a normal story that we were talking about, but within products, it's so easy to say this product's in these languages, and now, hey, just kind of drop in this and it's magically now supports, and it might not get every word correct, but it can get it to what, let's say 80-90% correct without really any fine-tune modeling or training, on it. You can really get any product now to be in multiple languages, which opens up, app developed in India, can now support US people without, a developer doing anything. So maybe it's Android apps or web pages that dynamically get translated, or even like SaaS apps for companies. Why do I need to spend the time to translate it? Because, we have a very small subset of people in France, for example. I don't really want to translate my product into France, but we're losing a business deal because of it. If we can run it through this and get 80% and shove it in, and then tweak it when a customer opens a SAV4 case of, hey, this doesn't make sense. Can you, make it better? Cool. That's easy to do versus doing anything else. So it can really, I think, open up the world into, a lot more people being able to do a lot more things a lot easier.
Agreed. I mean, amount of money I've spent on software solutions to do this kind of thing as well. SaaS, this is also killing some SaaS companies out there that make this software. But again, I think those companies can also optimize their products too, use the same technology and make it easier to adopt and easier to use for an MCP or something. And those are good use cases too. All right, let's move on to Azure, where we have one official story and then one sad story. So first up, Microsoft is positioning its marketplace as a central hub for AI adoption with over 11,000 prepackaged models and 4,000 AI apps and agents. I don't know where you get 11,000 prepackaged models. Like, if I take a model like Gemma and I do a small customization to it and I publish it, is that what they're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's going to be 3.5. I mean, they also have, it's like 3.5 turbo, and then there's some numbers after it. And they have multiple iterations of that, which is them like doing like weekly and, every couple weeks, whatever releases of it. So they have like their LTS version, then like minor versions essentially. So I assume they're counting all of those.
I see. So they're saying this platform integrates directly into Microsoft tools like Copilot Studio and Azure Foundry, allowing you to discover and deploy AI components within their normal workflows rather than switching between separate procurement systems. I mean, but like, again, how do I discover this? And how do I make the decision between, hey, I want Matt's version of Gemma 3 versus my version of Gemma 3? I'm sort of like, I get the idea of testing the models and like you would do QA, but like there's got to be more to it than just like it's available, right? Okay.
No, for the,
We'll get to
the marketing
we'll get to
blog
that.
post, it's going to be the largest number possible that we can.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marketplace supports both pro code development with full control over custom logic and IP ownership, and low code approaches through Copilot Studio using models from providers like Anthropic, OpenAI, Meta, and NVIDIA. Organizations with Azure consumption commitments can apply marketplace purchases dollar for dollar against their contracts with no limit, potentially improving ROA on existing Microsoft agreements. Microsoft is emphasizing a blended approach where companies can extend partner solutions with proprietary components, illustrated by financial services firms deploying pre-built fraud detection models while customizing them with internal data pipelines and compliance workflows. Now, see, this one I get. The strategy reduces the engineering effort and compliance review cycles compared to building detection systems from scratch while maintaining data security through managed identity within Azure tenants. The platform includes try before you buy capabilities with trials and proof of concepts that run within customer Microsoft environments. So, I mean, I get like idea of like, oh, this company specializes in fraud detection. And so they've created a proprietary model that I can subscribe to for fraud detection. That makes sense to me. Something I would buy. But again, like, what's the discoverability of this kind of thing?
Hard. I mean, I assume it's going to be a way, think about the AWS marketplace where there's 4 billion things in it. It's probably going to be a way for companies to use their MAC agreements, their PPAs, EAs, enterprise pricing. It's going to be, hey, we sell it here, go buy this agent or buy our app through there. I don't think the average consumer is going to go in and search and say, I want a security questionnaire agent, and go from there. I think it's going to be more, oh, you want to go do this, you're working with a partner or vendor already. Here, you go buy our stuff through there and kind of open it up that way. That's kind of my assumption. Yeah, you might get the random person that goes in, but I don't think the majority of the sales are going to be done that way.
Yeah, I'm on the marketplace right now, just seeing what I can look for, and there is a category for AI apps, agents, AI apps, and Azure AI Foundry services. Yeah, and then tools and connectors, but I don't see just models. So I'll have to do more poking at this later. But definitely the stuff I would expect: DocuAI, IBM Cognos Analytics, etc. Like things that I would expect through a marketplace, not necessarily custom models. So that's where I'm sort of intrigued.
I think it's models in the thing, like underlying models is probably what they're saying.
I think it's probably what they're trying to say, but they're sort of implying because there's a marketplace that you can, get these things. So I'm like, I want to make a model for CloudPod topics and sell it to somebody, but for
they also
$25 an hour.
Let's say I went somewhere wrong. They also have like Azure AI Search, which is the former Azure Cognitive Search, which is their vector database. So and like Azure AI Services in here. And Copilot metrics, I'm confused.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
Interesting. Well, I have a quick cloud journey for us tonight because that was it for Azure. It's it for Azure because of what, right, Matt? What happened? We normally
wait, whoa! I'm not Ryan.
Sorry, no, you're not. I apologize. It's getting late. Matt, what happened when we tried to go get more Azure stories?
Well, App Gateway was having issues. My favorite kind.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. My favorite guy.
Was the front door involved in this Azure Gateway, or was it just the gateway this time?
It was just App Gateway errors. So as we were prepping, I loaded everything up on my phone the other night as I was going through the articles, and I was gonna skim them like I normally do before I send them to our trusty BoltBot to summarize them properly. And I went to go do it tonight, and it couldn't load anything. So I was really sad. Or happy because it meant the show's a little bit shorter tonight.
I was ecstatic. I was like, does that mean we're not going to do a bunch of Azure stories that I don't care about? And he's like, yes. I'm like, yes, excellent.
Well, but here's the kicker. There's a 50-50 chance I show up next week.
And you're going to dump all these stories in our show notes for next week.
Dump them all. Yep. And make you and Ryan and Jonathan go for it.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that.
Thank you, BoltBot. I get to torture people with Bolt.
I mean, the one thing is that when it's just Jonathan and Ryan and I, and you're not here, there's no one to advocate for the Azure stories. So we kill a lot of Azure stories.
Let's be honest here. I don't advocate for them.
You do more than anyone else does. So if it wasn't for you, it would be a lot less Azure stories. So
I wonder if you should add to the metrics number of, I don't know if you go back that far, but number of stories by provider.
I did have it. It was in the metrics.
But only 1 year. So be curious, like year over year.
Then I did have more than just 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we did only have for 2025, didn't we? Yeah. Azure, we did 18% of our stories.
That's not terrible.
Not terrible. I mean, AI definitely took a bunch, and then AWS had 38%, which makes sense. So. Anyways, if you're curious about those metrics, they're all in our show notes from the episode. a few weeks back from our end of year prediction show. All right, now I do have a cloud journey. So Statusgator, which is a like SaaS monitoring product, basically is what it checks websites, it checks your APIs. It's kind of like a website monitoring type thing. It's definitely an observability tool for sure. I've never used it. Well, actually, I will tell you that. I used it probably years ago. I inherited it at a company, and then I think we still had it when I left because it wasn't a tool that was ever really a problem. So that's a testament to it. It's a product that just works. How's that for you? And it's not very expensive, which is nice about it as well. But basically, they published analysis of AWS outages from January through December 8th of 2025, focused on regional reliability and service level instances across all commercial AWS regions. And I guess which region was the least reliable? North Virginia, US East 1, or are actually known as Tirefire 1.
Still like US YOLO 1.
Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah.
They said they had 10 outages with 34 hours of downtime with 126 components affected. I don't recall 34 hours of downtime in AWS, but also I'm kind of numb to it. So if that's true, that's pretty crazy. October 20th, 2025 was apparently their most significant outage ever, with 76 components down for 15 hours with cascading failures across thousands of SaaS platforms. Compute and ML services were hit hardest with EC2 with 14 outages, SageMaker with 11 outages, Glue with 10, EMR with 10, and ECS with 10. And several services exceeded 24 hours cumulative downtime for the year, including OpenSearch, CloudWatch, EMR Serverless, and STS. Which OpenSearch being down for 24 hours or more, no shock. Not any shade on the OpenSearch team. It's built on Elasticsearch, and I know how much that thing goes down. Multi-region or regionless outages increased with 12 incidents or 32 hours of downtime. I don't know what they consider to be a regionless outage. Maybe the portal, the portal or something. Yeah, it just says regionless. It's in their table. Or a new category record 12 outages, 32. More widespread AWS service disruptions, 25. More failures, multiple regions simultaneously. Yeah, no details. Which is kind of one complaint about this is that, again, like it would be nice if they actually referenced all 10 outages they counted in the 34 hours of downtime, including the October 20th one. But interesting, they had some speculations of why they believe US East 1 is worse than others. And so I thought we'd talk about those real quick. So customer density is their first one. They think US East 1 has 2x the number of users of Oregon and 3x of other regions. They think there's a higher service density, which creates more interconnected dependencies and potential failure points. They believe there's heavier API traffic and more complex multi-AZ coordination happening in US East 1, but they have no evidence that age of region or architectural differences are a factor in the differences between the regions, which I think is true, maybe. I definitely think they have a lot more older instance types. Those are definitely going to have a more higher failure type, but those aren't going to become service-wide outages. They'll be isolated to you because you didn't get off of that M1 instance that's been running for ever.
Hey, I have really cheap pricing on T2s. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Don't tell everyone my secret spot market deal.
So 2x the number of users between US East 1 and Oregon feels probably low. It's probably like 3x to Oregon. There's 3x times more users than Oregon, and probably 4 or 5x more users than in the other regions would be my guess. Just based on my completely unscientific talking to people over my career about what region they're in, the number of people who have mentioned anything other than US East 1 is basically zero.
Unless if you're a newer product, I feel like US East 2 or Oregon. But if you're anywhere that's been around for a while, you're definitely in US East 1.
Even I was talking to a new startup the other day, and they were like, yeah, we're in US East 1. I'm like, why would you choose that? They're like, it was the default. So
that's the answer.
Yeah. That is the reason why, mostly. But you think that there's enough people that are saying like, don't ever put anything in US East 1, but no, it doesn't seem to happen. But Statusgator did give us some best practices to avoid some of these things. They said, again, avoid over-reliance on a single region, especially US East 1, which is good. Design for multi-region resilience and failover, good. Monitor authentication identity service, STS, at critical dependencies. And consider blast radius when selecting your primary region. All very nice. If you're following most best practices or most well-architected framework guides, these would all be covered for you already.
Yeah, everything in here is standard best practices except for don't use US East 1, which is
not the one that Amazon will give you in their best practices, but we will highly recommend you do not use it.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I look at. But most of the time there's also only so much you can do. If you're given a startup or anything else, yeah, it's great to move out of it, but You tell me a startup that has time to do something like that, and spend the, cycles to move out of the region for when there's technically nothing wrong with it, then to stay there and deal with an outage when it happens. And most of the time when it happens, what the outage was front page news, both that and front door were both front page news. So if you are a startup and you have an issue, you're like, look, we're on AWS and they took down the world. There's only so much we can do. And most of your customers at that point don't really care.
Well, anyways, it's good information. I appreciate Gator putting this together. It's always nice to be vindicated and like, yes, I think Virginia is a tire fire, and this data proves it is. I have services that run in Ohio and in Oregon as well. They were not impacted at 3 hours or 1 hour and 20 minutes. They said I noticed. So clearly, I'm not using enough complicated services. So, but yep, there we go. That's another fantastic week here in the cloud.
See ya.
And that's all for this week in cloud. Head over to our website at thecloudpod.net, where you can subscribe to our newsletter, join our Slack community, send us your feedback, and ask any questions you might have. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.